to the Marshall News and Views show. I'm Elaine Conyers, and my guest today is Scott Monson, who is the superintendent of the Marshall schools. And we've had a very unusual week, and we had, if you all remember, that on May 10th, we had a vote on the school referendum, which would have brought more space to all of our schools, because we have our enrollment has increased so much, and there's too many students in each classroom. And so this referendum would have covered the cost of adding more space into the schools, and also would make the school buildings more secure. Well, the vote went through, and it failed by 224 votes. Now, what are we going to do?
Well, that's a great question, Elaine. You know, I think we're really what our focus has been since May 10th is just sort of let's just let things kind of settle down. Let's reflect. Let's assess a little bit. You know, more internally probably than anything. So at the last school board meeting, the school board canvassed the official election results and really kind of finalized all of that. We're in the process of just notifying everybody that we need to notify and taking care of all the legal requirements. And the first thing we're going to do, and there's been a lot of discussion since that time. You know, I've had a lot of people come up and say different things and share different opinions, and you know, there's been obviously a lot of support, but in the same sense, the referendum failed. So what we're going to do now is early in June, I believe it's the 6th of June, we're going to pull together the school board facilities committee and just spend some time really taking a look at, obviously we know what happened with the vote, and figuring out probably a couple of things. One, what are we going to do for the next 2 or 3 years? Because you know, we are anticipating more students next year than what we have right now, and that trend to continue for the next 8 to 10 years. And like you said, our buildings are at or above capacity already. So, you know, immediate things that we're just going to have to think about are putting more students into classes, maybe looking at more portable classrooms as a solution to create some space in case we have, you know, a particular grade where we really think we need to add an additional section or something like that. So how are we going to address our immediate needs? That's one thing that we'll have a discussion about. There aren't a lot of alternatives there, really. You know, we knew, even had the referendum pass, that we had a couple years of increasing enrollment where we were going to have to kind of put some temporary solutions in place until all the work was done. So we'll take care of that immediate needs discussion, and then we'll go into, you know, what's our long range plan? Do we just accept, you know, the referendum failed, we're just going to go with what we have? I don't believe that our board will want to do that. You know, we're trying to find space for 300 more students in the next 8 to 10 years. We don't have that space, and it just I'm going to use the word acceptable. It's just not acceptable, but maybe a better word is it's just not practical, and it certainly is not beneficial to kids to continue to dump or put more kids into the existing classroom space that we have. So I anticipate that our board will say, let's figure out what voters did support. You know, what was the strongest message? The thing that I've heard is that the safety and security was really something that people were able to latch on to. Totally agree with it. You know, and that's something obviously that we know it's an issue in our district, and we want to continue to focus on how we can change our entrances and make them more safe and secure. But what else is it that the 1,511 voters who voted yes for the referendum, what else did they support? What were other reasons that they voted yes? So we need to figure that out, And then we also need to look at the flip side of the coin. You know, we had obviously 224 more voters who voted no on the referendum. So what was it that that folks didn't support, and why? And, you know, was it the cost? Was it, you know, building a new elementary school? We don't know yet. We could speculate a lot, but we don't know. So I believe, and I don't speak for our school board, but I believe that they will say, let's figure out what was supported, what wasn't supported, and let's figure out what our next steps are. I anticipate the next step will be to come back with a referendum, perhaps as early as 2017, you know, sometime in January or February like that, and do another special election. And then if that's the case, how do we come at it differently to do a better job of informing and educating and different things like that? And I don't say this in a negative or disrespectful way whatsoever, but one of the comments I heard quite a bit was that people didn't necessarily support having to do something with the high school, having to add on to the high school. And I don't know if that's because they don't know or understand or feel or believe or whatever that enrollment is going to go up there, but it is. You know, out of all of the buildings and all of the grade levels, and our need for space is real at all of the locations, the high school is the one that, when we look at our projections, has maybe the most need for space. And
that's so interesting.
It is, but you know, I think what we see, Elaine, is we see these large elementary classes come in, and then as they transition into the high school, then we pick up students from 8th going into 9th grade from our private and parochial schools, and also from the neighboring schools through our tuition agreements that we have in place with them. So all of a sudden, you know, graduating classes of 240, 250, maybe even 260 students is not unrealistic 8 or 10 years into the future. So if you take, you know, 4 grades of 250 students in each grade, that's 1,000 students in a building that is designed for a capacity of 840 students. And a lot of people can say, well, why didn't we build it bigger back when? Well, the projections 12 and 13 years ago showed that our enrollment would be about where it's at right now. But looking beyond, you know, this year and even a couple of years ago, back then was really difficult to do. So those are some of the challenges that we face. But, you know, I believe we need to come back with something. The need for space is not going to go away. We have a generation of students who are really active and you know, need as much one-on-one attention as we can give them, and to put them in classes of, you know, 25, 26, 27 students, it just doesn't work now like it might have 15 or 20 years ago. So that need isn't going to go away. And again, I anticipate, I can't guarantee, but I anticipate that we will go out again with another request, and it may be the same request because this plan was really a deliberate, well thought out, fiscally responsible plan, that there wasn't a lot of things we can trim out of it. You know, it was about space, it was about safety, and it was about career and technical education, and all three of those, in addition to a variety of other things, were themes or priorities that our community and our facility study committee said these are really important, and our committee did a lot of work and really put forth what we felt like was a good plan, and we just need to probably take a look at it one more time and figure out what we're going to do with it.
Now, this facilities committee, will they be surveying the public at all, or that's kind of a hard thing to do. That's a lot of people.
It is. You know, there are some things that we can do in terms of getting some feedback from voters, and, you know, just breaking down the demographics of the voters. All of that is I would say, public information, and, you know, there are firms that can assist us with that. That's what they specialize in, you know, pulling data from the voter registry or voter data bank, and help in doing some phone polling and different things like that to really, just a short 5 to 7 minute phone survey, maybe an online survey, maybe some focus groups, different things like that, to really at the core trying to say what did you support and why, and what didn't you support and why, and then using that information to maybe come back with a little different request and or tailor our informational materials and focuses to make sure that we get that word out, and that here are our needs, and go from there. So I think we really need to get some feedback from our public and those that voted. And on that line, Elaine, we were really pleased with the voter turnout. I know a lot of people, some people had said, well, you only got 43% of the registered voters to come out. Well, when you can get more than 40% in a special election, that's successful.
That's true,
So, that shows that we have a community that has a vested interest in the school district, and we were pleased with that turnout, and really grateful to everybody that voted. We obviously live in a democratic society, and that's our right and our privilege to be able to vote, and so to get that type of voter turnout, we were pleased with. Certainly, we would have liked to have seen the results turn out differently, but we're going to continue to focus on doing what's best for kids. That's what we have to do.
That's right. Well, it's a complicated situation when you talk about, the reasons why people voted the way they did. If they voted against it, what were the reasons? Well, there's so many areas. It increases my taxes, and it, like you say, they couldn't understand why the high school would have more students. But one thing that we've talked about many times on this show is with the economic development that has taken place in Marshall over the last 5 years or even longer, and it's come pretty fast. And I don't think everybody just realizes this, that's really happening, because they don't necessarily see the growth out in the industrial park. If they take drives out there, they'll say, oh my, another building's going up. But that doesn't come about, and that draws people to this community, those extra jobs.
Yeah, absolutely. It really does. And I think you're right, Elaine. I think that unless you really pay attention to it, and it doesn't always have to come through the media, but this business started or this business expanded, or look at the industrial park, like you said. But if you just pay attention, I think, to the businesses that have started up and the new attractions and new businesses and different things in the community, you really can see that economic development and economic growth. And there are opportunities for people here, and employers are looking for employees, and at some point in time we have to either I think recognize that and hopefully say, I want to be a part of a growing and vibrant community, because I think we've seen some communities, especially in rural Minnesota, that aren't in that situation, are losing families and having people move out for jobs and different things like that, and that affects your school district, it affects your community, it affects the property tax base. That's one thing. As business and industry grows in Marshall and the Marshall School District, essentially, that increases the tax base, which then lessens the burden on everyone else. So it's really, we need to recognize it, because it's here, and we've had. I've been very impressed with the efforts of many to bring business and industry to Marshall, and to make Marshall an even stronger regional presence than it is, and a presence that people from surrounding communities and areas want to come to and spend their money and work and live and raise their families and different things like that. So I think we need to probably continue to point that out, that there is growth here and there are opportunities. And if we don't want that as a community, then we need to sort of take a look at, and I don't believe that's the case, but if we don't want that, then we need to take a look at, why are we recruiting businesses and industries and why are we grateful when new businesses start up and different things like that. But I think all of us want Marshall to be a strong and vibrant community and a great place to live and shop and worship and you know, take care of your health care and all those types of needs, and it is right now, and that's really the vision that I believe our city and our community and civic leaders have, and that's the vision that we have in our district as well.
And I just think that like you said, the people, the ordinary private citizens don't realize that all of this is going on. And we, as you know, we have lost or are losing 3 of our main city staff. And we have had numerous applications. For instance, for the city administrator, we had 29 people that applied for that position. The organization that works with this said they'd never had that many applicants for a city our size. Well, and all those applicants said, oh, we want to live in Marshall. This is a nice size community. There's a lot of good things going there, and they're culturally as well as sports things for everybody to take part in, and it's a safe community. And they mentioned the good school system and all of those things. So, I mean, here we sit with all of these positive things going on, and we just, I guess, maybe need to educate the public more on the direction that Marshall is really going, and that we need to look at that and continue to provide services.
I think that's a great point, Elaine. You know, I think Marshall, well, there have been a lot of efforts undertaken to inform people about what a great place it is. I think in general, a lot of people don't necessarily know that until they really look into it. Like a candidate for the city administrator position, they would do their homework. They would learn something or as much as they could about Marshall, and they would recognize, wow, they've got this and this and this, and all of a sudden they've got a long list of reasons that they would want to come to this community and work and live and raise families. But to some extent, I think Marshall is still a little bit of sort of a hidden gem in southwest Minnesota. I don't know that a lot of people really understand that much about Marshall. And, you know, I had been here many times before starting as the superintendent for a variety of different reasons. And yet, until I really got off the beaten path, if you will, you know, off the sort of some of the major highways that go through the community, until that happened, I didn't really have a good understanding and probably as high of a level of appreciation of the community as what I should have had. You know, if you go through Marshall on 23 or 19 or 59 or, you know, any of the major roads, you see some really great things and some attractions. But if you just take 2 hours and drive around the community, it's pretty amazing the things that we have to offer. And like I said, I think to some extent we're a little bit of a sort of that hidden special place.
I like that way you put that, because it really is true. It is hidden, so to speak. But in those people that are out there that are planning communities and they look at Marshall and wow, you know, and we hear that over and over again. But the general public doesn't hear that as much and don't realize it, you know, that we really are a place that people want to move to. Well, you look not only at the increased, you know, businesses that have come here, but look at the housing. Look at how that is extending out into the cornfields. You know? And so it really does show growth.
And I think I would agree with that. And I think the other thing that just came to my mind is, you know, I probably get half a dozen calls each year from different businesses in the community, and they say, we're bringing this person in for a particular position that we have available, and we'd like them to have an opportunity to tour the schools or, you know, to meet with you to talk about opportunities for their children or whatever. And so I think also we're seeing businesses and industries that are going out and recruiting people for positions, and really probably because the need is there. You know, it isn't. There's the unemployment rate is relatively low, and there's a shortage of employees. So now the need to go out and recruit is there. But I think part of that is also just really continuing to try to get great people, and to get the type of people that the values and the things that Marshall stands for and is about. You mentioned the safety, you know, being able to, you can drive down any neighborhood and there's just about any neighborhood at any given time, and there's kids out playing together, there's kids riding bikes, the park system is amazing, the trails, I mean, there's so many things for families, and really trying to highlight those things to the candidates that they're recruiting, because we can, you know, we can say, look at all these things that Marshall has to offer, and that list of things is much longer than what other communities may be able to offer. And that's not a negative statement against other communities. It's just really tooting our own horn, because it is a great place to live and work and raise a family. And you know, like I'd said before, we as a district want to continue to be a part of that puzzle, a part of that sales pitch, a part of that attraction for people to come here, and having the space to be able to accommodate not super small class sizes. We're not talking about having 14, 15 kids in a class, Elaine. We're talking about, you know, 22, 25, 23, and then at the high school 27. And those are, you know, those are moderate class sizes, but they're class sizes that we feel like we can do a good job of educating kids in.
Exactly. And now that this referendum did not pass, if that is voted on again, like you say, in 2017, that would mean that this wouldn't be all finished and ready to go till when? 19 or 20? Well,
bumping it back would mean that we likely say we had another referendum in January or February of 2017. And if it were to pass, that would likely not mean that we could get all the legal requirements and bids in place to start work in the spring of 2017. We have not had that conversation yet with our architect, and actually we're going to be meeting with them early in June as well, and that'll certainly be a discussion point for us. So, you know, even had this referendum on May 10th passed, we still were looking at the 2018-2019 school year for everything to be done at the start of that school year. So I think there's an outside chance that could still be in place, but it's most likely that the work couldn't happen until the start of until the start of the 1920 school year. So, you know, essentially 3 years from now. But that's a consideration and something we're going to have to take into account as well. And again, that's speculative based on if we do another referendum, and I do think there's a chance that will happen. Yeah.
Well, you've done a lot of, you've had to do a lot of research on this, and you had everything, you know, planned out, and you certainly did a good job. And it's just something that the public wasn't ready for, but like you say, we'll do it again. Well, let's change the subject a little bit here and talk about here. It's just about the end of the school year. Is that Friday?
It is Friday, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And so what size class do we have graduating?
Well, we've got a couple kids that are kind of riding the fence a little bit that I know we're hoping can get some work done here this last week. But I think we're going to have somewhere between 180 and 185 graduates on Friday night during the commencement. Excited about that. You know, mixed emotions. Every graduation, you're excited about celebrating the success of the graduates and knowing that they're ready for the next step in their lives, whatever that is. But yet also, you know, for me, it's the end of a school year, and it means we've got 3 months of sort of downtime in terms of, it's always busy, but, you know, if I want to walk out in the hallway at the middle school or drive to one of our other buildings, I can see kids, you know, and actually they energize me a little bit, their excitement and everything. So it means now for a couple months that I won't have that opportunity. So it's sort of mixed emotions. We also had, just yesterday had the Maytech graduation, Marshall Area Technical and Educational Center, and 12 Maytech graduates. Really kind of an emotional message from both of the student speakers, and certainly from Ms. Snyder, just talking about what Maytech is and does, and what it means to everybody. And as I was sitting there listening to the kids talk and sort of listening to the testimony, I think words that came to mind were family and opportunity, and just really maximizing that, and how important of a message that is for all of our kids to hear, that we do have Maytech, and we have great things happening at both Maytech and the high school. Find your place as a student, as a high school student. Make it work for you, and make sure you get that graduate, you graduate, and get that diploma, because it's such a huge thing in our society nowadays to have that, and it just opens up so many doors for you. So, we get to celebrate a lot of things here at the end of the year as we wrap up school, and continue. We've been talking about the 16-17 school year for probably 6 or 7 months already, obviously, with not just the referendum, but budgeting and everything, staffing and everything else has been taking place for next year. So we get to celebrate a lot of things, and we've got a lot of work to do. We also, on Monday, May 23rd, we're going to have our first ever, to my knowledge, celebration of staff excellence. We're going to bring all of our staff members together for a sort of a going away program, if you will, end of the school year program, and recognize our retiring staff members, recognize staff members for 5, 10, 15, 20 years of experience, so on and so forth, and just convey the message about how important they are. We'll do a lunch starting at noon, and then we'll have a program at 1 o'clock. All of our staff members, all of Taher Food staff members, all of Southwest Coaches drivers are invited. They're effectively our staff members. We treat them that way. We believe that they play really important roles in our district. So we were able to get some sponsorship for that event, and we're excited about that. But yeah, it's a sort of a mixed emotion time right now.
Yeah, that's for sure. And for the kids, it's kind of mixed too. Maybe they really want to get out and have a summer free, but still they miss their friends and the activities. And although Marshall does offer a lot of activities now in the summer.
Kids will definitely, the majority of them will stay busy over the summer. It doesn't seem like there's much of a downtime anymore for kids, so they tend to get busy right away with vacations and activities, and for some even summer school and different things like that. But the one thing that we see maybe more frequently than what we'd like is kids that don't want school to end, because they know that school is sometimes the best place for them to be. Sometimes it's the safest place for them to be.
That's right.
It's one of the most enjoyable places for them to be, and like you said, that social aspect of things is really important too. But there's enough things happening in Marshall over the summer where if kids want to get involved, they can. We'll find a way for them. If they can't afford some of the classes, we'll figure out a way to make that happen. But it's going to be a long summer for kids, because we're finishing up school early, because this is the last year of the Flexible Learning Year Consortium. And then we won't start school until after Labor Day here in September. So summer vacation will be a couple weeks longer than normal for our students. But kids need a break too. Just the time to recuperate and re-energize and get away from the books and computers for a little while and do some of their things. But we'll be back here after Labor Day and rearing and ready to go, and excited for a new school year.
That's right. So, and that'll kind of happen fast, really. Those weeks go fast.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you for coming on again and talking about the referendum and what lies ahead in the future, and so that people can understand. Well, we're going to have to do it down the line sometime, and So thank you for all your work, and hope you have a good summer, and we'll certainly be back on the show here in the fall.
Sounds
Thank
great,
you.
Elaine. I appreciate the opportunity to come on board here and share some things happening, and I appreciate all that you folks do for us.
Okay, thank you.